It seems the tension between LeBron James and ESPN's loudest voice, Stephen A. Smith, isn't dying down anytime soon, because explosive new footage just went viral of Stephen A. straight up insulting LeBron after his playoff elimination.
I thought it was weak. I thought it was some bull.
The internet is going crazy, and now it looks like LeBron has responded, and you won't believe what he just said. Let me break down the drama. The confrontation, what really happened. On March 6, 2025, during a highly anticipated matchup between the Los Angeles Lakers and the New York Knicks at Crypto.com Arena, something unusual happened that wasn't part of the scheduled program. During a timeout between the third and fourth quarters, LeBron James approached Stephen A. Smith, who was seated courtside. This wasn't a friendly chat between two basketball personalities. This was a confrontation, and it was captured on camera for the world to see. According to multiple reports and lip readers who analyzed the footage, LeBron was visibly upset and had some choice words for the ESPN personality. Reports confirmed that LeBron told Smith, "Keep my son out of this, bro. And yo, you gotta stop talking about my son," along with, "You gotta stop with my son. That's my son. That's my son." The intensity of the moment was palpable, even through television screens across America. What triggered this confrontation? The answer lies in comments Stephen A. Smith had made about Bronny James, LeBron's son and Lakers teammate, who was drafted 55th overall in the 2024 NBA draft. Stephen A. had been critical of Bronny's NBA readiness, suggesting that nepotism played a role in his NBA presence. In fact, on January 29th, 2025, following a game where Bronny went scoreless in 15 minutes during a 118-104 road loss to the Philadelphia 76ers, Stephen A. didn't hold back in his assessment on ESPN's First Take.
Last night, the Lakers took a loss to the Sixers, but didn't come without Bronny James seeing some decent playing time. In the first half, Bronny went 0 for 8 with 3 rebounds and 1 assist. JJ Redick spoke candidly after the game on the young star's struggles and the decision to play Bronny in the first quarter last night.
During this segment, Stephen A. made some particularly pointed comments that many believe set the stage for the future confrontation.
I am pleading with LeBron James as a father. Stop this. Stop this.
He continued with even more direct criticism.
We love what we're seeing from him in the G League, because that's where you belong. As you hone your skills and you get better and you legitimately earn, which I believe he has the potential to do, I am rooting for Bronny James.
Smith went on to cite statistics that painted a harsh picture of Bronny's NBA performance.
Right now, Bronny James is averaging 0.3 points, 0.3 assists, and 0.4 rebounds. You know what people are saying. You know what they're going to do to this kid. In 13 games, he has played 44 minutes. He has scored 4 points. He is shooting 1 of 16 from the field, 0 for 7 from three-point range. How are you doing him favors? We know that he's not ready yet.
These comments, while presented by Stephen A. as professional analysis, clearly struck a nerve with LeBron, who viewed them as a direct attack on his son. And so, when the opportunity presented itself during that Lakers-Knicks game on March 6th, LeBron decided to confront Stephen A. face-to-face. The day after the confrontation, Stephen A. addressed the incident on First Take, initially taking a more measured approach. He acknowledged LeBron's perspective as a parent, stating, "That wasn't a basketball player confronting me. That was a parent, that was a father," and expressed understanding for LeBron's reaction.
That wasn't a basketball player confronting me. That was a parent. That was a father. And I can't sit here and be angry or feel slighted by LeBron James in any way in that regard.
Stephen A. elaborated further on his understanding of LeBron's perspective.
By all accounts, he's obviously a wonderful family man and a wonderful father who cares very, very deeply about his son. And based on some of the comments that he had heard, or shall I say, I think he thought he heard, he clearly took exception to some of the things that he heard me say.
However, Stephen A. did express that he wished the conversation had happened in a different setting.
For the record, his agent and friend, Rich Paul, has my number. Maverick Carter, who works under him, has my number. LeBron James knows how to get in contact with me if he wanted to. He never called, because had he called and wanted to talk to me, I would have accepted that call. Had he wanted to see me, I would have flown out and I would have seen him and I would have had a conversation man to man.
Stephen A. also clarified that his criticism was directed more at LeBron's decisions rather than at Bronny himself.
But if we had had that conversation, I would have said to LeBron James, I never would speak negatively about your son. I was talking about you. meaning you, LeBron James.
At this point, it seemed like the situation might cool down. Stephen A. had acknowledged LeBron's perspective as a father and clarified his intentions. But instead of de-escalating, the feud was about to reach new heights with the emergence of what would become the viral footage at the center of today's story. It was on March 11th, 2025, just a few days after the initial confrontation, that Stephen A. Smith appeared on Gilbert Arenas' Gil's Arena podcast. It was here that Stephen A. took a decidedly more critical stance, describing LeBron's courtside confrontation as weak and bullish. He suggested that Bronny's sad look on his face on the bench might have triggered LeBron's reaction, and doubled down on his claim that his comments were about LeBron's decisions, not a personal attack on Bronny. According to reports, Stephen A. stated on the podcast, "I was talking about you, not Bronny," implying that his comments were about LeBron's decision-making rather than an attack on his son's abilities. Nevertheless, the language he used to describe LeBron's actions, calling them weak and using expletives, struck many as unnecessarily harsh and personal. But to fully understand why this confrontation escalated to such levels, we need to look beyond the immediate incident and explore the history between these two larger-than-life figures in the basketball world. Because as it turns out, this isn't the first time Stephen A. Smith and LeBron James have found themselves at odds. A history of tension, the Stephen A. and LeBron feud. The relationship between Stephen A. Smith and LeBron James has been marked by periodic conflicts and instances of perceived trolling, particularly in the public eye. Their interactions have occasionally escalated into public disagreements, with Smith's critical remarks sometimes interpreted as antagonistic, while James has responded through social media, or, as we've recently seen, direct confrontations. One of the most notable past conflicts occurred in the summer of 2017, centered around Kyrie Irving's trade request from the Cleveland Cavaliers. Smith, on his radio show, claimed that sources close to LeBron's camp suggested James was tempted to beat Kyrie's due to the trade drama. LeBron took to social media to deny this, posting "Get another source" in response to reports citing Smith's claims, targeting Slam Online, but indirectly addressing Smith. Smith, undeterred, went on what many described as an overly dramatic rant on First Take, standing by his 30 sources and escalating the dispute, which highlighted a direct clash between the commentator and the athlete. This incident marked a significant public disagreement, with Smith's provocative reporting clashing with LeBron's public denial, setting a precedent for their contentious interactions. Beyond specific incidents, Smith's commentary has often included critical assessments of LeBron, particularly in the context of the GOAT, greatest of all time debate, where he has consistently favored Michael Jordan. In 2020, Smith compared LeBron's leadership style to Jordan's on First Take, debating with Max Kellerman how James motivates teammates, potentially highlighting perceived deficiencies. This comparison, while analytical, has been seen by some as part of a broader narrative of undermining LeBron's legacy, contributing to ongoing tension. Smith's preference for Jordan was further emphasized in recent years, with articles noting his refusal to acknowledge LeBron as GOAT, such as in a 2025 discussion where he reiterated Jordan as his choice. While these comments are more recent, they reflect a long-standing stance that has likely irritated James, given his competitive nature and public image. During the 2018 NBA Finals, another instance highlighted Smith's critical stance toward LeBron. Actor Jamie Foxx, during an ESPN pregame interview, mocked Smith for his frequent criticism of James, doing an impression and asking, "Why do we jump on LeBron so much compared to other players?" Fox's comments, including questioning Smith's venom toward LeBron, underscored a public perception that Smith's critiques were excessive, adding to the narrative of trolling. Smith responded by deflecting, but the exchange highlighted the tension surrounding his commentary. This history of conflict provides essential context for understanding why the recent confrontation over comments about Bronny James escalated so quickly and intensely. It wasn't just about those specific remarks, it was the culmination of years of tension and perceived disrespect. Now let's return to the specific comments about Bronny that triggered the courtside confrontation on March 6, 2025. As we mentioned in part 1, Stephen A.'s criticism of Bronny's NBA readiness was particularly pointed. On January 29, 2025, following Bronny's scoreless performance in a game against the Philadelphia 76ers, Stephen A. appeared on First Take and stated, "I am pleading with LeBron James as a father. Stop this. We all know that Bronny James is in the NBA because of his dad." He added, "How are you doing him favors? We know that he's not ready yet, and I'm saying this with compassion. You know what these numbers mean. You know what it's going to do to your son, to people that are missing out on opportunities, that are busting their tail on other NBA teams and the G League and Europe and everywhere else. What kind of opportunity they're starving for." These remarks suggested nepotism and questioned Bronny's merit, which likely upset LeBron. The statistical breakdown Stephen A. provided was particularly harsh, noting that in 13 games, Bronny was averaging 0.3 points, 0.3 assists, 0.4 rebounds, shooting 1/16 from the field, and 0.7 months from 3. Stephen A. argued that Bronny should be developing in the G League instead of being exposed to NBA games. When LeBron confronted Stephen A. at the Lakers-Knicks game, the ESPN analyst initially took a more conciliatory approach in his response the next day on First Take. He acknowledged LeBron's perspective as a father and expressed understanding for his reaction. However, he also emphasized that he wished the conversation had happened in a different setting, noting that LeBron had his contact information and could have reached out privately. But it was the podcast appearance on March 11th, 2025 that took the feud to another level. On Gilbert Arenas' Gil's Arena podcast, Stephen A. described LeBron's confrontation as weak and bullsh, suggesting that Bronny's sad look on his face during the game might have triggered LeBron's reaction. He clarified, "I was talking about you, not Bronny," implying his comments were about LeBron's decisions, not a personal attack on Bronny. This podcast clip went viral, with videos spreading across social media platforms. The harsh language Stephen A. used to describe LeBron's actions struck many as unnecessarily personal and disrespectful toward one of the greatest players in NBA history. The escalating feud didn't stop there. LeBron responded on The Pat McAfee Show on March 26, 2025, telling Smith to "relax, bro," and mocking him for exploiting the incident for attention. The back and forth continued, with LeBron posting a video of Smith boxing with a mocking womp womp sound effect, further escalating the public exchange. Smith's response included claiming he would have immediately swung if LeBron had touched him, intensifying the confrontation even more. He also stated, "We may never speak in life again. I'm fine with it," indicating the depth of the rift between them. The public response to this feud has been mixed, with fans and analysts divided in their opinions. Some have defended Stephen A., arguing that his job as a commentator is to provide honest analysis, even when it might be uncomfortable. Others have sided with LeBron, seeing his reaction as a natural response from a father protecting his son. One notable perspective came from Big Boy, a radio personality, who disagreed with LeBron's approach. In a discussion captured on video,
"Yes, he did. I'm a pro NBA player playing with other NBA players in a pro sport, and I'm a man amongst men. Don't take up for me, mommy."
Big Boy went on to criticize LeBron for what he perceived as a double standard.
"Because you got him in the league when you knew he didn't belong. And number two, here you are for the second rescue. So LeBron, sit your down."
He continued by emphasizing the professional nature of the NBA and the scrutiny that comes with it.
You are open to be critiqued.
Yeah.
Who are you to where you are above criticism? Because of who your daddy is?
Right.
No.
But
you're a professional player, so you have to endure all of what comes with that, which is criticism.
However, Big Boy also acknowledged the perspective of a parent protecting their child.
And see, where I was at, Stephen A., I'm looking through daddy goggles. I'm looking through daddy goggles. Do you feel like a lot of people look through parental goggles?
I don't have no problem with it.
This exchange highlights the complex nature of the situation, with valid points on both sides. Stephen A. was doing his job as a sports analyst, providing commentary on NBA players and their performances. LeBron was acting as a protective father, defending his son from what he perceived as unfair criticism. The aftermath, surprising twists, and viral impact. As the war of words between Stephen A. and LeBron continued to escalate, with social media posts, podcast appearances, and television interviews keeping the feud in the public eye, something unexpected happened on March 20th, 2025. Bronny James, the subject of the initial criticism that sparked this controversy, had his best NBA game to date, scoring 17 points on 7 of 10 shooting with 5 assists in 30 minutes, all career highs against the Milwaukee Bucks. He stepped up in the absence of several teammates, showing flashes of the potential that many had questioned. The next day, on March 21st, 2025, in a surprising turn of events, Stephen A. appeared on First Take and acknowledged, "I might have been wrong about Bronny's readiness." He expressed being very impressed with Bronny's confidence, poise, ball handling, getting to the basket, finishing, pulling up for jumpers, hitting a three, and tying his NBA best with 3 rebounds. However, Stephen A. also added a caveat. If he continues to play like this, he could be a bona fide player sooner than later, but emphasized that one game isn't enough, and Bronny needs to show more consistency. This partial retraction marked a shift in Stephen A.'s commentary, reflecting an openness to revise his opinion based on performance, though with reservations. This admission from Stephen A. adds an interesting layer to the ongoing feud. On one hand, it could be seen as a gesture of goodwill, acknowledging that his initial assessment might have been premature. On the other hand, the qualification that one game isn't enough could be interpreted as Stephen A. still maintaining some skepticism about Bronny's NBA readiness. The partial retraction hasn't appeared to fully mend the rift between Stephen A. and LeBron. The viral footage of Stephen A. calling LeBron's actions weak and bullsh on Gilbert Arenas' podcast has continued to circulate widely, and the public exchanges between the two have remained contentious. The virality of this feud can be attributed to several factors. First, the high-profile nature of both LeBron James, an NBA legend entering his 22nd season in 2025, and Stephen A. Smith, a leading sports commentator with a recently signed $100 million contract with ESPN, ensures significant media coverage. Second, the personal element. Smith's comments about Bronny and LeBron's protective response resonates with audiences, adding emotional weight to what might otherwise be just another sports debate. Finally, the podcast format of the most inflammatory remarks, with its candid and unfiltered discussion, likely amplified the impact, as seen in the high view counts and shares on platforms like YouTube. This incident underscores the complex relationship between athletes and media personalities, particularly when personal matters like family are involved. Smith's role as a pundit, who gets paid to talk about folks, not to them, as he stated, highlights the professional stakes in this confrontation. LeBron's reputation for silencing media noise during crucial moments is tested here, with the family element hitting close to home. The public response to this feud has been divided, with some defending Stephen A.'s right to provide honest analysis as part of his job, and others supporting LeBron's protective stance as a father. Some media outlets like Barstool Sports noted that many agreed with Smith that Bronny shouldn't be in the NBA yet, while others criticized Smith for targeting a young player. This division highlights the broader debate about the responsibilities of sports commentators and the boundaries of their analysis. Should family members, particularly children of famous athletes, be off limits in sports commentary? Or does entering a professional league like the NBA automatically subject someone to the same level of scrutiny as any other player, regardless of their age or family connections? In Stephen A.'s defense, he has consistently maintained that his criticism was directed more at LeBron's decisions than at Bronny himself. On March 7th, 2025, on First Take, he clarified, "I never would speak negatively about your son. I was talking about you," meaning you, LeBron James. He elaborated that his concern was about the position Bronny was put in due to LeBron's public statements and actions. Stephen A. referenced LeBron's previous statements, including a February 2024 quote where LeBron said Bronny could play on the Lakers right away and was better than half the players in the NBA. He also mentioned LeBron's pre-draft instruction that teams wanting to sign him would need to draft Bronny as well, saying, "Wherever Bronny is at, that's where I'll be. I'll do whatever it takes to play with my son for a year. It's not about the money at that point." Stephen A. argued that these statements put enormous pressure on Bronny, intensifying the scrutiny he would face as the son of one of the greatest players in NBA history. From this perspective, Stephen A.'s criticism could be seen as concern about the unfair expectations placed on Bronny, rather than an attack on the young player himself. However, LeBron's perspective as a father protecting his son is equally valid. On First Take, Stephen A. acknowledged, "To be in that moment, to have LeBron look at me the way that he did, for me to be a father of 2 daughters, for me to know what fathers, how much love fathers have for their children, and to hear what he had to say. It was all about his son." This recognition of the parental instinct to defend one's child adds a human dimension to what might otherwise be seen as just another sports controversy. The viral nature of this feud has also raised questions about how media figures like Stephen A. Smith approach their commentary in the age of social media and instant viral moments. Stephen A.'s podcast remarks, calling LeBron's confrontation weak and bullsh, were significantly harsher than his initial response on First Take. This escalation suggests either a calculated decision to generate more attention or perhaps a more unfiltered expression of his feelings in the podcast format compared to the more structured environment of a television show. The ongoing feud between Stephen A. and LeBron reflects broader tensions in sports media. As athletes gain more direct platforms through social media and their own content channels, the traditional dynamic between sports figures and commentators is evolving. Athletes no longer need to rely solely on traditional media to share their perspectives, and they can respond directly to criticism in ways that weren't possible in previous eras. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.